Our quaking planet. We often use the saying as safe as in one's house. But are houses really always that safe? Don't sometimes even houses topple over? What happens when there is an earthquake and the whole ground starts trembling? Earthquakes are much more common than most of us think. In fact, the earth shakes about every 30 seconds. We have probably 1 million earthquakes a year. Most of the earthquakes are so weak that only special instruments called seismographs can show that an earthquake has really happened. A seismograph has a revolving drum and a weight that holds a tracer. When there is any tremor in the earth, the weight begins to vibrate, and the vibrations get traced on the turning drum through the tracer. Fluctuations in the traced line indicate the intensity of the earthquake. On an average, only one earthquake in about 500 causes any damage. But some earthquakes are so powerful that they can cause horrible damage. There have been so many earthquakes in history. An earthquake hit the Chinese city of Tangshan in 1976. It killed about 750,000 people. An earthquake hit the Kutch region of Gujarat in India on 26 January 2001. It killed about 20,000 people. Small tremors can happen when volcanoes erupt. They can also happen when there is a landslide or when the roof of an underground cave falls in. But powerful earthquakes happen when one huge piece of the Earth's crust slips suddenly against another piece. This slipping may take place deep down under the ground, but the shock travels up through the crust and sets the surface quaking. A seabed earthquake may set off a huge ocean wave called a tsunami. These can rise higher than a house and can travel faster than the fastest train. On March 11, 2011, a deadly tsunami killed over 21,000 people and caused widespread destruction in Japan. The Earth's crust has in it about 20 plates made of solid rock. We call them tectonic plates. These plates are very huge in their size. They are constantly moving, but very slowly. Most big earthquakes are caused by the movement of these plates. Mostly, these plates slide past one another and nothing unusual happens. But sometimes they get locked together and cannot move. And when this happens, pressure begins to build up. Then one day, suddenly the locked plates break free. There is a big earthquake. The ground shakes so violently that it can release 10,000 times more heat than an atom bomb. No doubt, earthquakes kill us, but there is a positive point also. When the plates collide, new soil from deep under the ground is thrown up. Some of the old soil sinks back between the plates again. Thus, we get a fertile new soil which makes our planet so full of life. But for the movement of these plates, our Earth would have been as dead and lifeless as the moon. But when there is a big earthquake, buildings and sometimes whole towns are razed to the ground. In 1556, an earthquake killed 830,000 people in the Shanxi province of China. Earthquakes are beyond man's control, but it is in our control to minimize the damages. In the event of an earthquake, it is the tumbling buildings that kill people, not the earthquake. It is the collapsing multi-storied flats that bury people alive. It is their shattering doors and windows that injure people. Some seismological institutes have conducted experiments to know which types of building material are most resistant to earthquakes. It has been found that mud can withstand 10 to 60 vibrations per second. Wood is also a good quake resistant. Only quake resistant materials should be used for the buildings of the future. People living in earthquake zones should also know what to do when a quake strikes. Panic can only aggravate a situation. There should be well-trained emergency crews to deal with the situation. There are people who believe that earthquakes are God's signal for the end of the world. But if that were true, the world would have come to an end thousands of years ago. What needs to be done is to start constructing buildings that won't fall in the event of an earthquake. If we start now, more lives can be saved in the future.